Hello guys and welcome back to MK48.io. If you didn't see the last video, it's a battle royale ship fighting game. You get to play with real life ships and you get these by killing other players, collecting oil barrels that spawn naturally throughout the map, or by killing players and collecting their parts. We're doing a submarine only challenge and we're starting off with the Type 4, a German submarine built during World War II, and is actually the most common submarine ever made, 703 total. Second, we're on to the Oberon, which you just saw another picture of. It's a British sub built between 1957 and 1978, and they actually served until the year 2000, and a lot of the Commonwealth countries like Australia and Canada use them. Pretty interesting. Now, this game is available for free too. You can see a link in the description if you want to play it, and it's honestly pretty good. There's 10 levels you can go through, and if you have a really good game and you don't die like that, you can probably get to level 10 in about 20 minutes of playing, but it's pretty difficult because, as you'll see when we get to the higher levels, the level 7, 8, 9, they can just instantly destroy the smaller ships if they see them. So the early gameplay is really just a matter of not running into big players who notice you. And so some interesting things about the submarine in comparison to surface boats, like the ones you can see us shooting at, is that they have the ability to go underwater, which is pretty obvious given that they're a submarine. When you do this, cannons can't hit you, rockets can't hit you. The only thing that can damage you is depth charges, which almost no boats have, and they're really difficult to use, or torpedoes, which are your main weapon as a sub. You can avoid these torpedoes if you go underwater at like the last possible moment, because they're at like a different depth level to you. We're on to another submarine, the Gulf, which you just saw a picture of. That's actually a Chinese sub that was bought from Russia. The Gulf class was a ballistic missile submarine built by the Soviet Union in the late 50s. 10 of these boats were actually sold to North Korea in the 90s and one more to China. This one had a pretty interesting story, even though we're not on it anymore, but we're just dying, so we'll get back to it soon. But in the late 60s, one of these boats sunk in the Pacific to about 5 kilometers depth. And it actually had 3 nuclear missiles and 2 nuclear torpedoes on board. But the US Navy went ahead and found it before the Soviets could, and they actually recovered it, which was interesting. I'm sure they were glad to get their hands on Soviet missile technology. There you go, and now we're past the Gulf, and we're on to the Skipjack. This is a nuclear submarine built by the United States, and it was used from 1960 to 1990. This was the fastest submarine in the world until 74. The hull alone cost $40 million too. Fortunately, we died. All right, now we're getting a little bit farther, so I might talk more about the actual game. So here we spawn in, and we see there's a cruiser over there to our right. I get confused and I launch some missiles, but I realize they're actually coming off my rear. And this guy absolutely pwned. They come at a wide angle. So one thing you can do with subs, and you can see that guy was trying to, you can kind of wiggle around and change your speed and lose torpedoes. The base versions don't have any guidance, but once you get to about level 4, you get guided torpedoes, which are really nice because, as you can see here, they go towards the ship. When they're not guided, they're really hard to do anything with. What you'll see is, I believe the Skipjack had it, but I'll definitely point it out once we get to a later sub, is they have sonar devices that you can launch, and they actually trick the torpedo into following that. Now, I've talked about the surface, and I talked about this in the last video too, but I'll mention the active sensors again. What these do is increase the range that you're able to see things. However, they also make it so other ships can see you easier because they can detect your radar. Here, unfortunately, we tank a torpedo, but we don't really have any other choice. But there's lots of oil barrels from that battleship we destroyed, so we heal up pretty full. These oil rigs here are a nice place to hang out because they spawn oil, which you can pick up and use to level up. They also are a natural attractant for other ships. And we're on to the next submarine, the Akula. The Akula is a nuclear attack submarine built by the Soviet Union in the late 80s. 15 of these were completed at a cost of around $1.5 billion each, which seems pretty expensive for the Soviet Union. They were one of their main submarines, and there's actually 4 still in use, but they're slowly being replaced by another sub that we'll talk about later. Here we go, on to the next one, the Ohio class submarine, and this is an American ballistic and cruise missile submarine that's still in active use. They're the largest sub built by America and the 3rd largest in the world, with the other 2 being Soviet Union. There's 18 of these in service today. Oh, and you can see there we just dodged those subs by launching that sonar device I was talking about. It's that 1 of 1 on the bottom there, that row. And lots of action going on as we kill these other ships and get onto the Yasin. But the Ohio is really cool because 14 of them carry half of the the United States active nuclear missiles, and that's their deterrent. You know, if anyone hits them, they'll be able to blow it up, even if you destroy the Pentagon. Okay, and here's the Yasin. You can tell it's Russian. Construction started in the 90s, yet the first boat only came out in 2013. 4 of these things are active, and 4 more are being built to replace the Akula subs, which we talked about just a little bit earlier. I really like the Yasin. It's not as good as the tier 9 boat, but it's really fun because you have these 4 rockets you can launch, which you see there. And then we also have 4 rocket powered torpedoes, which are cool. You launch them out, they fly a little ways, and then they jump into the water. And here you can see I launch a sonar device behind me, and you can see the torpedoes follow that instead of me. It's the preferential target. And here we go, I'm launching everything I have at this guy. And here we go, here's another use case for the sonar device. You can see I launch it, and it makes them go to the side, and I was able to dodge most of them, but some of them still hit me, unfortunately. And the cool thing about the Ohio is there's 4 other ones which aren't the ones that carry the nuclear missiles, and they can actually carry 154 Tomahawk missiles. And they use those for more conventional things when you don't necessarily want to have nukes threatening other countries. So we've made some really good progress, obviously. We're on to the tier 8, and we're almost at the tier 9. And as you can see, we've been quite the menace. You really have to play the submarine kind of carefully. If you're not smart, you'll end up in shallow water, and then your sub can't submerge properly, and then you can be at a bit of a risk. And another thing, if you haven't noticed, you have to come up to the surface to collect oil barrels. Here we go, onto the Seawolf, the tier 9 sub. Pretty freaking sweet. It's a fast attack submarine, United States. These things were built in the 90s, and 29 boats were planned, but when the Cold War ended in the 90s, the States scrapped this because they're really expensive. And so they had 3 boats that were finished, and so they kept these and got rid of the rest. It's the second most expensive submarine class ever, behind France's Triomphant class. Each of these subs cost $6 billion in 2024 money, which is quite a bit. And really cool fact, one of these subs was modified. It's 30 meters longer than the other 2, but it has like a capsule in the middle, which allows for the launching of remote vehicles and Navy SEALs underwater. Pretty sure there's like a scene in Modern Warfare 3 where that happens near the start. I could be misremembering it, but I think that's pretty cool. And here we go, we have an awesome kill here. We're just molesting that battleship, launching torpedoes, and we get kill on him. But unfortunately, there's some vestige stuff hanging around, and somebody else saw us, and they launched a bunch of torpedoes, and we weren't able to avoid that. You can see I launched my sonar device, but it doesn't quite work the way I thought it was, and I die, and shit, I'm back down to level 4. Okay, we'll level up quickly. Here you go. Unfortunately, Wally is too close to us, and I launch my missiles, and he dies really quick. And there's something big over there. I launch my torpedoes, come up to collect this, and come back down. And we're on the skipjack, which is a good one. It has a sonar device, which is critical. You can see there I launch it and avoid like 5 torpedoes. And we come around the edge here. Awesome amount of torpedoes launched by me, and we get the kill. And again, really critical when you're playing with the subs to use the sonar devices. You can see I used them a bunch there, defeating that larger ship, and all his torpedoes missed me. Because the only thing that most ships can do if you're playing smart to kill you, like I've mentioned, is the torpedoes. So if you get really good with the sonar device, you can avoid quite a bit of damage. And I gotta say, this game is pretty fun. You can upgrade through a lot of ships pretty quickly, as you see. And the subs are interesting gameplay because you kind of hide and ambush people, and you can kill bigger ships if you're smart about it. And here you go, we're back on the Ohio, and you can see those Tomahawk missiles I was talking about. So this thing must be one of the 4 cruise missile submarines. I think Tomahawks are also in Modern Warfare, probably other CODs, you know, Tomahawk missile inbound. It's the first and only thing that those little ones will see, because I can launch this from outside of their viewing range. And the Ohio actually has the largest like screen size of any sub, just because it's so long, and it has a Tomahawk missile, so you can zoom out the most and see things. And so here I wasn't very careful. You can see the ground here is not deep at all, and I'm actually having to sail at the surface. So I'm pretty vulnerable because subs don't have very much health. Your main thing is that you can hide. And here we go, we're using surface-to-air missiles, and those are actually used to shoot down aircraft, which is cool. You can see one of those airplanes launch a torpedo at me, but they're not guided, so they're not too difficult to avoid. I was going to try and chase after the aircraft carrier, but those things are actually pretty fast. And I don't know if you guys knew this, but there's actually an equation which relates speed to a ship's size. And so the larger a ship is, actually the faster it can go. So the fastest ship in the world is actually one of the United States Army's aircraft carriers, which you think would be like a small Zodiac or something. I mean, okay, this is for a conventional warship. If you build like a racing ship like you see in like Red Bull or something, that's going to go faster. But for standard ship construction, so an aircraft carrier is actually the fastest ship in the world. It's classified because the ship is still in service, but it's thought that if it's two nuclear reactors went on 100%, you know, power activating, it could travel at, I think it's 90 knots, could be 80 knots. And what someone else was saying is, you know, if you follow anything that's happening in Ukraine, drones are a big thing. And those drones can go just slightly faster than the ship. So it'd be a big race, you know, if the drones are trying to target them. And that was a bit of a tragedy. I got killed by a level 2 as a level 9 boat, which is brutal. But as you can see, I was caught up at the surface and he just slammed his rockets into me. And because your health is so low, it was enough to kill me. But I'm not too upset because I'm already back on the Ohio. And you can see what I'm talking about with the Tomahawk missiles just absolutely molesting the small ships. It's not really even fair. And here you go. You can see around the oil rig here, somebody laid mines. And that was sad. I launched so many Tomahawks at Arth there on the right, but he was just out of my range when they all crash landed like what looked like, you know, 5 meters to the left of his boat. Soviet Union got absolutely destroyed there. I'm going to go back to finish the job, collect my reward. And here's one thing I like about the Yasin, because the ship that comes after it, the Seawolf, only has guided torpedoes, and they're really fast and they're nice, but the Yasin has those missiles which you can launch and the rocket torpedoes, so you actually have some really good range. Because if you deliver 4 torpedoes to the side of a ship and 4 missiles, most ships die. Whereas with this Seawolf, you can see you kind of have to just launch your torpedoes and be patient. But it is a very, very good ambush ship. Here you go. You can see Kai there, which is dead now. But he was actually that mine layer of those mines I was talking earlier. Your torpedoes replenish naturally, but slowly. And if you haven't noticed, when you pick up oil, everything replenishes a lot faster. So I usually try to keep my torpedoes at about 7, so when I notice it gets close, I launch one, and then that way I always just have torpedoes flying around because I'm always picking up oil and it's always replenishing. You can see that little boat over there got destroyed. There's all these little guys around, but I'm not really interested in them. They can't hurt me. I can just submerge, and I go up north and I find where all the big boys are playing. You can see these two guys are teamed. I launch everything I've got. I kill Dogu, I launch the rest. I kill Carter, he's in the Moskva, which is I think a tier 8 ship. And unfortunately, I couldn't do anything to dodge those, but I submerge and then come to the surface right at the time, and I actually dodge those 2 missiles. They go underneath me, which is crazy. I've never done that before, and so that was kind of fun. You can see there's a whole bunch of small ships here. They're coming to see if they can steal any oil from Big Battle. I'm going to finish off these USA players. They were getting to be a big clan, but then I just destroyed all of them. You can see I come to the surface and I eat a whole load of missiles, unfortunately, which drops my health really low. And one thing you can do too, and you've seen me doing, is I come to the surface, I wait about 5 seconds or so, and then I go right back down, and that allows you to collect all the oil barrels around and not get hit. You can see here I saw the little white dots indicating there's torpedoes following me, and so I avoid them by launching that sonar device and dodge all of them, and holy shit, here's the rest of USA. These guys definitely got fed. It's a lot of missiles. I'm going to see if I can block them. I drop a sonar device, but unfortunately when I come to the surface, he launches all of his bullets at me and I die. But I think that was a really good game of Submarine. A lot of hunter killing, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe if you liked it. Take care.